Well presented. Thanks to the Unicor team. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a number of stakeholders have been eagerly and enthusiastically involved in preparing for the culmination of today's presentation, the spotlight on urban development, the revitalization of Port of Spain. We move now into the presentation format of the event. And first will be a presentation by urban planner, Mr. Sebastien Paddington. Mr. Paddington is the Managing Director of International Project Initiatives Limited, or IPI. Mr. Paddington will give us a better understanding of the global context of urban city development. Please welcome Sebastien Paddington.
Robertson Regis, Ministers of Government, Mayor Port of Spain, our distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. My name is Sebastien Paddington, and I'm the Managing Director of IPI Limited, which is a property development company. My background is in land use planning, architectural and engineering design, project management, and construction management. And I've been asked to speak this morning on the global perspective of developing cities and the overarching benefits, including trade and commerce and their socio-economic values. To paint some context, in the year 2050, 68% of the world's population will be living in an urbanized area. There are many challenges. Resilience. How will cities recover from the direct and indirect impact of COVID-19 and suppression measures? Will dense urban environments remain desirable? Sir Peter Hall was a British urban planner who studied the history of urbanization. He found that from ancient Athens to the dawn of Hollywood and Los Angeles, the golden ages of civilizations across time coincided with the success of a city. Edward Glaser is a renowned urban economist at Harvard, and what he's saying here is that well-designed cities allow for numerous planned and chance encounters between acquaintances and strangers, which can be a driver of innovative ideas. Productivity of workers are closely correlated to the average number of jobs per employee that are reachable in less than 1 hour's commute. We therefore need either very fast and affordable transportation or a very densely populated city to increase the effective size of the labor market. I'm very happy to note the attempts made to align Vision 2030, which is our 2016 to 2030 National Development Strategy, to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 11 is especially relevant to urban planning. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. I'm also encouraged by the fact that we are pursuing projects to help us meet commitments under the Paris Agreement, including the largest solar park in the Caribbean. The UN Habitat Conference on Sustainable Housing and Urban Development is held every 20 years, and this allows for global discussions on how to plan and manage cities, towns, and villages for sustainable development. I'll make the note sustainable many times today. Out of Habitat 3 in 2016 came the New Urban Agenda, which provides a roadmap for transformation. The New Urban Agenda presents a shift in thinking. Cities are understood as complex, interconnected systems that not only provide social and economic benefits, but can also be a key tool in the fight against climate change. Large cities allow for economies of scale, which can lead to efficiency in the consumption of energy and other resources. Some of the key principles of the New Urban Agenda: ending poverty, ensuring sustainable and inclusive economies, and ensuring environmental sustainability. With reference to the pillars of implementation, what we need is an updated National Spatial Development Strategy. The last one was done in 2012. We need more robust legislation and regulations for urban concerns, such as noise and other forms of pollution, and times for delivery vehicle drop-offs, for example, in the CBD. We need a coherent framework for planning and design at a national, regional, municipal, and local level. Plans and planning regulations must be in sync with one another. Land use regulations must facilitate the type of development advocated for in the plans. We need innovative fiscal approaches. Example, introduction of a land value tax, which taxes the value of the land instead of the buildings on it. This has been shown in Singapore, Estonia, to deter land speculation, bring the price of land back into balance, and deters high vacancy rates in urban areas. We also need a greater role for municipal corporations in their own development as part of local government reform. In many cities around the world, we have seen a decline in essential business districts for various reasons. And as a result, we have had to endure the associated costs. Over $1 trillion annually in the US, for example. $1 trillion. We need to be careful not to exacerbate the decline of already struggling areas in the cities, such as the CBD. This can be achieved if we consolidate high-intensity, high-level commercial activity in our CBD, rather than trying to create a new CBD outside of downtown Port-of-Spain, for example. The Jamaica model of New Kingston is a cautionary tale of how to kill an existing, struggling CBD. We need to recognize the many assets of our capital city of Port-of-Spain, such as our parks and green spaces, the Queen's Park Savannah, the Brian Lara Promenade. Why not make the Maraval River into the Maraval Parkway? The Northern Range, our forgiving climate, the Gulf of Paria, and the ocean views it affords. Our built environment and the diverse history represented through our historic West Indian vernacular and public spaces. A generally well-connected street network, well-scaled blocks and streets that are suitable to pedestrian circulation. The innovation, creativity of our people in inventing the steel pan, calypso, soca, and a Trini carnival that has been replicated throughout other cities in the world, Notting Hill, Miami, Toronto. Steel pan being the only instrument that was invented in the 20th century. Trinis who have made it onto the global stage, Peter Minchell in the Olympics in Barcelona, Calypso Rose. Port-of-Spain being designated as a UNESCO Creative City of Music, the literary scene, the TNT Film Festival, the Bocas Lit Fest, our street food, art. Cities are centers of innovation and economic powerhouses. Millennials are increasingly seeking out authentic urban destinations to immerse themselves in local culture. Cities are centers of innovation. Buildings with balconies and terraces which allow for spectators to view carnival and other street festivals. The benefits of well-planned and managed urban living in cities can act as a tool for socio-economic mobility, particularly through a robust economy with an equitable, accessible labor market. Dense cities are centers of culture and creativity. East Port-of-Spain, for example, is one of the most densely populated places in the country and home to cultural innovations. Carnival, steel pan. We'll also experience a more efficient use of land and energy resources from compact development. How do you do this? Smart growth. Smart growth is the agreed-upon framework for development laid out in the recently completed intersectoral post-COVID-19 roadmap to recovery report, and was advocated by the Minister of Finance in the 2020-21 budget statement. The principles of smart growth advocated for in the roadmap to recovery are illustrated in the next few slides as specific considerations for revitalization. One very important one, consultation. For example, today, the importance of consultation in plan making and project execution. This rural to urban transect shows that cities are very different from suburban and rural areas. Urban living by its very nature involves the sharing of space and amenities at the level of the block, the neighborhood, and the city. Suburban living is characterized by private land ownership typically. City land is scarce and expensive and must therefore be used efficiently. Even within a city, every neighborhood has its own physical and socioeconomic context. Urban planning regulations shouldn't unnecessarily stifle the supply of real estate and lead to unaffordable prices. There must be strong consideration for form-based planning codes, much like like the much lauded one in Miami, for example, that offer land use flexibility in a neighborhood-appropriate manner while emphasizing a vibrant and inviting public realm. We need a strategic phased approach with intensities and usages appropriate to the neighborhood. This building on the screen shows a moderately priced development in Little Havana, Miami. We need to consider, for example, restricting on-site parking for buildings of certain square footages that are close to public transports and other hubs. These developments cannot and must not be out of scale with surrounding buildings. Densities can be achieved without the use of high-rise buildings and the inherent costs and challenges associated with these. In Little Havana, for example, zoning allows for as many as 23 dwelling units per 5,000 square foot lots. 23. Efficient use of land ensures that the cost of land per unit is as low as possible to allow for greater affordability of housing. For example, a 5,000 square foot lot in Woodbrook that is valued at $2.5 million. If a developer builds 20 units, the cost of the land allocated to each unit would be $125,000. This could be accomplished with four apartments per floor in a modest 5-story building. The street is the most common form of public space. Buildings, landscaping, and furniture should make the street feel like a comfortable outdoor room. The National Library and Brian Lara Promenade that my late grandfather, Colin Laird, designed are perfect examples of this. Cities cannot cater to cars and people equally. There must be a clear prioritization. Where feasible, on-street parking is a great tool for protecting the sidewalk and bike lanes from moving traffic and leads to more cautious driving behavior. High-speed traffic is not only a real danger to other street users, but it kills city neighborhoods. Do you know that improved pedestrian friendliness of a city is highly correlated with a higher GDP per capita? Walkable, transit-friendly cities move more people more efficiently. Utility and infrastructure priorities should shift from expansion into greenfield sites to upgrade and maintenance in existing urban areas. We need smart technology, renewable and green energy, and other green stormwater management systems such as bioswales and other forms of green infrastructure. Developers can help offset these costs through their capital contributions. It's done all over the world. Did you know that 2 parking spaces on the aisle equal the size of a studio apartment? 4 parking spaces on an aisle space with the size of a 1- to 2-bedroom apartment. Parking is expensive. Surface parking limits what can be built on site. Therefore, it's inefficient. Structured parking is costly, can cost more than $120,000 to construct. On-site parking requirements encourage driving and car ownership. Why? Providing parking and therefore making driving more convenient. And the cost of providing parking is already built into the cost of the real estate and the goods and services. You pay for the cost of parking whether or not you're driving. When done on small urban lots, on-site parking leads to excessive driveways, curb cuts along a street that create vehicle-pedestrian conflict points. Think about the differently abled. And it also cuts potential revenue for the city through on-site parking meters. Allowing parking requirements to be met off-site within a 5 to 10-minute walk in parking garages can ensure that the cost of parking provision doesn't inflate the cost of housing and urban services for those who choose not to drive. Paying for parking as needed discourages driving. London is a classic example of this. One Woodbrook Place, a very commendable and visionary attempt to bring residential life back to Port of Spain. However, can this stand as a model for development of a neighborhood that is found in? History tells us no. It hasn't led to any resurgence in residential activity in that neighborhood. The level of construction complexity, financial cost and risk, land assembly, and variations from approved urban planning regulations means that this type of project is not easily replicated. Revitalization demonstration projects should serve as a model for what typical developers can and should build and replicate. Typical developers. One Woodbrook Place is not quite an urban development, but rather a high-rise suburban development. Here, the buildings are out of scale from their context and either set back far from the sidewalk or elevated above it, leaving the sidewalk devoid of activity. This creates a physical and psychological separation between the development and the neighborhood. Residents can access non-residential usages without venturing onto the streets, and therefore have less incentive to explore the neighborhood on foot and add to its overall vibrancy. Consider this project instead, which is practically the opposite of One Woodbrook Place. It is a multi-storied, mixed-use building in Little Italy in San Diego, in a historic district. The architecture is contemporary, yet respects the Mediterranean aesthetic. The building is set right up against the sidewalk and embraces the sidewalk, which adds to activity and life to public space. It projects a sense of warmth and not aloofness. The building is integrated with its neighborhood and adds to it, rather than detracts from it, the public space around. Residents must enter the public realm in order to access the non-residential ground floor uses. Whilst One Woodbrook Place represents a suburbanization of city that is insular, self-supporting development with privatized amenities isolated from its surroundings, Village Walk represents the essence of urban living, that is embracing community and public life for vibrant urbanism. We have the opportunity before us to realistically reimagine and re-energize our capital city for both the benefits of all citizens in Trinidad and Tobago and visitors to our Twin Island Republic. Once these elements outlined are considered, I predict a revitalized Port of Spain that will rise to its potential with a vibrant CBD and offers a comfortable walking environment which is surrounded by livable neighborhoods. Thank you very much.